everyone. I hope you have been enjoying all of the presentations throughout the week and have learned a lot that you can take with you. We've gotten requests at other events to talk about Articulate Storyline, so I wanted to spend a few minutes with you talking about what Storyline is, what some of the pros and cons are, some alternatives that may exist to Storyline, when to use Storyline, when not to use Storyline, and then I'll show you some things that I have created using Articulate Storyline. So first, if you're unfamiliar with Articulate Storyline, Articulate is the company that has a wide variety of resources for creating educational artifacts. Here is a list of all of their resources that are available. I personally only use Storyline. I have played around with Rise and have a client who is currently interested in maybe using Rise for another opportunity, but those are generally the only two that I use. There are a lot of alternatives to Storyline. So Storyline is what I use. It's one of the industry standards, but there are a ton of other authoring softwares out there that do pretty much everything that Storyline does. Storyline is a pretty low cost option, but there are capabilities that are growing even in PowerPoint, and people are doing great things with PowerPoint that replicate a lot of the same stuff. I find it easier to do these things in Storyline because it's built for that, but if you're looking for a low-cost option, there are definitely some interesting tutorials out there and ways to leverage PowerPoint to do a lot of this stuff. Adobe Captivate is another one that is very comparable to Articulate Storyline. Again, I haven't played too much with Captivate in a long time, but a lot of this stuff is becoming so standard in the industry that there are a lot of other ways to do this. There are some other packages that are available out there. So this is not necessarily an endorsement of Articulate over other things. Again, this is because people have requested this and it's what I generally use. We'll go through it, but I want you to be aware that there are other options out there that you can explore. So I want to talk about some decisions, pros and cons of Articulate Storyline itself, and when to use Storyline versus when to choose other activities. Some of the pros of Storyline for me are there is a fantastic community of Storyline. I think they're called the Articulate Heroes or something like that. It's something Heroes, but there is a very active community. You can post your Storyline project files. People will download it and help you troubleshoot if you're having issues. If you're looking for ideas, Articulate posts a ton of templates and examples and ideas. So their community is really strong and it's a great way to learn. They have a ton of tutorials that are free and documents to help you accomplish the things that you are trying to accomplish. It is very, I think, easy to learn the layout of your workspace. Everything is generally on one screen. There are tabs across the top that are similar to Word or something like that, where you're just looking across the top for your options. It doesn't require any coding. It does help to understand variables and how variables work, because you do have to, in a shorthand way, tell Storyline the commands essentially. But that's done in a pretty easy to learn series of drop down menus, and they've actually done an update recently to make that even easier. I've taught this to people who don't know anything about coding and they've been able to pick it up pretty easily. It is very versatile, and I'll show you that when I show you the examples, that I can use this for everything from a straight kind of lesson oriented activity to building. I use it to build simulations of different softwares and things like that as that's needed. So it can do anything that you want it to do. It adds a lot of interactivity. It allows faculty to find creative ways to present material. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to when to use it. But it takes something that can be kind of dry and boring and adds some interactivity and engagement to it. Some of the limitations and things to think about. I have Canvas. We use Canvas where I work, and it requires us to upload storyline projects using SCORM. And the SCORM packaging system in Canvas very strongly limits the amount of tracking and grading you can use. So we essentially now only use storyline activities that are not graded because we were having a lot of trouble getting the correct grades passed into the grade book, especially when you allowed students to have more than one attempt at the activity. We had issues with when we just wanted to know that they completed it, not that they earned a certain grade, but that they just went through the activity. We had a lot of trouble getting that to work. So now we essentially only use it for non-graded activities, and it works great with that. But that's something that we have to work with our clients to make sure that they understand that there will need to be some sort of follow-up activity. You can have them screenshot the end screen and upload it as an activity to verify that they've completed everything or to see their grade. Typically, I also recommend that they use this for instructional and as a true learning activity and not an assessment, and then follow it up with some sort of quiz or assessment. Or they can do it before they come to class, and then it can be part of the discussion in class. But there are some limitations because of the SCORM packaging. We are hoping at some point Canvas will address that, but I think with the move, everything shifting to HTML5, I think there's been some reluctance to touch SCORM with the expectation that HTML5 will replace it at some point, but we're still waiting for that. Also in Canvas, and again, this may differ from LMS to LMS, there are issues with the size. So when you bring it into Canvas in that SCORM package, it comes in as an assignment and is built within an iframe, and you can't change the size of that iframe. So you'll build this great, beautiful presentation and then put it in Canvas, and then it's much smaller sometimes than you want it to be. So that's just something you have to design for. There are some things that you can do to get more space, and I'll talk about that a little bit when I show you some of the concepts. Another con is some of these projects can be pretty big, especially when you get into branching and using branch logic scenarios, and you can't collaborate on a file. So it's in your individual file. Two people can't be working on the same project file at the same time. So again, that's something to keep in mind when edits need to be done. It's very difficult to assist someone with the edits because only one person can have and be working on the file at a time. Development time is something to consider, but I'm sure that would be the same with every product like this. These take a long time to develop. When we are working with clients on what they want us to do, we generally start with a PowerPoint presentation that has the content, and then import the PowerPoint presentation into Storyline, and then add the interactive elements, or whatever we've worked with our graphic designer and added animations and things like that, and I'll show you that in a minute. But all of that takes development time. So if you're wanting to use these projects and really use and leverage what Articulate can do, you just want to keep that in mind, that these are going to be longer times. So I've spent anywhere from 10 hours to 40 hours on a project, depending on the depth extensive nature of the project. So again, you want to use, there are great opportunities to use this. It's really good for building foundational knowledge for either a module or a topic or the course as a whole. If there's information that an instructor knows that students need to know, but they don't want to spend a lot of class time on it, it's a great opportunity to put in this kind of interactive activity. Students can go through it at their own pace. So the ones who are strong in that particular topic will go through it really quickly, and that's great. It's just a review. The students that are not very confident or don't have that foundational knowledge, they can go through it as many times as they need to, and that interactivity is there to help them stay engaged. It's great for building active learning activities. It's much more engaging than a flat PowerPoint activity or a PowerPoint delivery or lecture. It's great for exploration. I'll show you an example of that when you want students to be able to go in and just look at various options and explore and experiment before they're assessed. It's an opportunity to provide immediate feedback. There are quizzing opportunities in there. There's all kinds of ways to provide students with reteaching and feedback immediately in an opportunity that's more fun for them, more engaging for them. Okay, so now we'll move on to the show and tell portion, and I'll show you some examples of projects that I've created in Storyline. Okay, so we'll start with this one. This is something that I created in collaboration with an English 101 instructor who wanted a way to review rhetorical devices and rhetorical analysis to help students write a rhetorical analysis paper. So we decided to make something that it would be interactive, that would walk them through the process in preparation for them then doing something more complex, just to orient you to what you're looking at. So this in gray around what the slide is the player, and we can customize this. You can have previous and next buttons on the player itself. Again, going back into that issue of real estate in that iframe in Canvas, I try to put the buttons on the slide itself so that I can use this player as small, as infrequently as possible, so that I have more, so that the presentation will be bigger, because this will eat up space, especially if you have a menu, which I'll show you in another one. So you just add buttons, and these are just buttons that are built into Storyline that you can create and customize however you want to. The editing tools in Storyline are very similar to what you would use in PowerPoint or any other Microsoft, where you select an option from the menu, and you can change the fill color and the text color and all of that stuff. It's a very, very easy content editor. So again, this is just the content. We can add captions. We do add captions as general practice to everything for accessibility, for all of those reasons that you would want to use captions anyway, for English as a second language or English language learners, all of those things. This is your timeline. And so if it has audio, I like to include this so that students can pause it and go back and all of those things that they need to. So I'll just take you through just a little bit of this so that you can see how it works. Now you're looking at the review, and this is an old review version of this. So this is another good thing that I like about Storyline, is you can upload this to their Review 360 site and share this link with people so that they can provide feedback to you. So this is how I share it with coworkers to get feedback, or the client to get feedback before it's put into Canvas. Once you package it in SCORM and put it in Canvas, you can't replace that file. You have to delete the file and upload a new one. So we do as much editing and revision in this setup as possible. And once you publish it to the site, you can make edits and keep republishing it. the link stays the same so that whoever's looking at it can just see the updated version as they go. So you can embed videos. So here's a video here that this person wanted to use, that they use in class, about the types. So they're going to watch this video, and then this is a drag and drop question. So it's basically just a review of definitions of the different types of rhetorical devices, and it's the same thing that can be done in Canvas with a matching question or anything like that. It just makes it a little more engaging. I can set it so that they can go back and review that video if they need to and then move forward. But they'll just click and drag, and then you can go through. And one thing that you can do that I like here is you can make it so that if the information is, if the student chooses the incorrect answer, it snaps back. So if you see when I tried to place this in the wrong place, it would send that back. So that's an option. You don't have to do that for drag and drops. You can really do it more as an assessment to see if they understand. But when they're learning for the first time, you want to make it as learning centered as possible. So that's how this is set up. So they click submit and they move forward, and this is that immediate feedback. So these feedback layers are built in for you. You can create your own, but there are some that are built into those quizzing factors. One thing that I like about this is these are hotspots. So this is just text with hotspots, and then you have layers. And this is really the key to using Storyline, is this use of layers and of making things clickable and interactive so students can view it. So this is an example of an essay, and then they can click on the different sections and it explains it for them. So essentially like you would do in a lecture, but students can look at it, and here it's been color coded so they can see the ones that are the same. So then this is just a typical multiple choice question. Again, these are pre-built in Storyline, so all you have to do is put in the information and it builds this for you. And then you can set it so that they have to try again. You can set the number of attempts that they get, or they can get one and then get the feedback. And then you can tailor your feedback to every particular option that they choose so that they're getting individualized feedback, or you can give general feedback. So this really gives that immediate feedback response that's going to help students learn. So now I'm going to move on to this one. This was a great activity. This was a lot of fun to develop. We worked in collaboration with our graphic designer. We're fortunate enough to have a graphic designer in our division. And so she created these graphics, and I'm going to, you'll see, this is animated, but you'll see as we move forward. So this is a scenario-based, story-based activity where they're introduced to this person who has type 2 diabetes, and this is for a nutrition class, by the way. They have type 2 diabetes, and so they in class have been learning about glycemic load and all of those things, and so this is a way to review that information. So these are little animated videos that our graphic designer made for us, and then the rest of this is things that we can do inside Storyline. So we can have state changes so that when they hover over something, it highlights it. We can, again, add these layers. And the point of this is for it to be an exploration. So they click on something, they get some information, and they can always go back and explore other options so that they can go through and look at everything. And then ultimately when they decide, they'll choose, and then they get the explanation. So we've animated her with different facial expressions and all of those things. Now we have a graphic designer, but Storyline also has characters that you can download and include. So if you don't have a graphic designer, you can use some of their prepackaged stuff. They have realistic characters, and then they have animated characters, animations of characters, not animated. They don't actually move, but they're illustrations. Their character packages are great. They're very diverse in representation and, male, female, age, all gender, all of those things that you would like. That it could be a little more diverse, of course, but their selection is pretty good. Okay, so we're gonna move forward. So again, animations from our graphic designer, and then this is the same thing. So here's the next scenario. Here's the information that they need. We can, add more. These little animations of the coming in and out of the text boxes, that's totally within Storyline and capable of doing. You can add things called motion paths, and they will move anything. You can also create games with motion paths. This is the menu that I was telling you about. Again, I like the menu when we're developing so that I can jump around a little bit easier and show people so that you don't get lost in having to go in through the activity linearly. That's great for development. When we finished this and rolled it out to put in classes, we removed the menu. So I can collapse the menu here, but I would take the menu off for students because it just takes up space. There's also resources that you can put here. All of this is customizable on the player, so I can remove this resources. There are other things that you can add here. If you see there's no timeline here, there's no controls here. Everything is on the slide itself. So that's a more in-depth, more intense, more robust use. And then the last thing I'm going to show you quickly is a simulation that I've created. So this is our student information system is Blazernet, and in the orientation courses that we provide for students, we wanted to give them an introduction to Blazernet so that they would know how to find everything that they needed to find. I can take them through this. So this is a simulation of how they would actually log in to Blazernet. This is a simulation or a simulated view of their homepage. They can click on different markers to get information. There can be pop-ups related to each information piece. It's just a very robust tool that allows you to do a wide variety of activities. And then within this, there is also so I can lead them through the action of editing things, and I've done this multiple times, so the things are preloaded for me here. But they would actually have to type this in themselves, and all of these are set to trigger, so if they do enter the wrong information, it will prompt them to add the correct information if I set it that way. So I can do, if I click this, when I click this button, perform this action if, and that gets into those variables and understanding how object variables and things like that work. But, if this information is correct, then that will happen. So again, there is a video that you can embed here. You can embed videos from YouTube. You can upload your own videos and embed them as well. Again, these are clickable areas that include more information. And you can see all of this is very big. Again, going into Canvas and making sure that when it gets into Canvas in that smaller iframe, that everything is still readable. So a lot of this is just building in hotspots, building in triggers for layers. This is a hotspot activity. So this whole thing is a hotspot, and the correct area is the correct hotspot, and then you can do incorrect hotspots. So if I want to say, where would he go to change his information, it puts that little trigger there, and that's correct. So a very versatile tool. All right, so I'll stop there with that. I will share the link to this Blazernet tutorial and the EH101 video because or activity. I don't want to share the link to the diabetes activity because I don't have the instructor's permission to share all of that, and that's their content that they created. But I created this, and the EH101 instructor, that content I'm able to share as well. So I will share those on Facebook, on the Aiden Facebook page, below the presentation. When the presentation is posted, you're free to look through this stuff, and please reach out if you have any questions. If you want to see, for the sake of time, I didn't actually show the workspace, but if you want to see the workspace and you want to reach out and set up a meeting, or we can do it as an Aiden activity maybe, to kind of walk through the workspace. But again, this is really just the opportunity to show you ways to do some interactive activities for various things. I like a storyline a lot. I don't have any reservation with using it for anything. If I were to move on to something else or somewhere else, I would advocate for getting storyline if they didn't have an interactive platform. I think it's a great thing to use. But yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them on the Facebook page, and I will be there to answer any questions you have. So have a great day. Thanks for your time.